This material is made available to you by or on behalf of the University of Melbourne under Section 113P of the Copyright Act 1968. It may be subject to copyright. For more information, visit the University Copyright website.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the University of Melbourne. My name is Nathan, and it gives me great pleasure to host you all here this evening for the My Melbourne Future Information Technology Information Evening. Before we begin tonight, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Wurundjeri people, and pay respect to their elders, both past and present. So tonight, this represents a great opportunity for those of you who are thinking about undertaking undergraduate or postgraduate studies in information technology. I know for myself, having been in this event last year, I walked away thinking I was going to go into a career in information technology, so there is a lot of really fantastic and wonderful opportunities that exist for you as potential students here at the University of Melbourne. But it gives me great pleasure to welcome Professor Shantan, who will be speaking to you all tonight on the behalf of the Information Technology Department here at the University. So please join me in a round of applause for Shantan.
Thank you, and I join Nathan in welcoming you all to the University of Melbourne. So my role here tonight is to talk to you about information technology. And I think one of the important things about information technology these days is to really think of it as something that's so essential to so much of our lives, right? And it's not going to go away. If you think about the early 19th century, the things that drive the economy were things like roads, right? Building roads. And then it was the steam engine that was really important, right? Then it was the telephone that was really crucial to get business going and manufacturing and all that sort of stuff. And if you look at the late 20th century and the early 21st century, we talk about the digital space, right? And it's really important to remember this, that the human race has created more information in the last 15 years than it has in the last 2,000 years. So in 15 years, we've created more information than we have in 2,000 years. That must mean something. It must change something. It must have an impact somehow, right? And I'm going to show you something quite astounding about the way this is going. And the way we look at IT, and it's not just this university, any university that's teaching IT has to think about this. What is our role in making sure that the roads of the future are built well? And the roads of the 21st century are the digital technologies. How do we actually build infrastructure that's ethical, sustainable, usable, and also user-friendly, right? So it's a whole heap of stuff that people have to think about. You know, 10 years ago when I was talking to students about studying IT, there was a misconception that studying IT means you're just going to be stuck at help desk, right? In a little dungeon with your headphones on and doing this. And it's only for people who like to play World of Warcraft. Now, it helps, but it's not an essential criteria. Okay, and this is very important. And I used to have to deal with parents, and I know there's some parents in here, I'm sure none here are the ones I'm referring to. Parents would tell me things like this: my child doesn't need to study IT, because they're already so good at it. Look at them, they're on Facebook all the time. All right? Now, what is the problem with that statement? Quite simply this. Let me take a straw poll. How many of you like going to restaurants? Do you love eating at restaurants? If you could, you would do it all the time, right? Does that make you all chefs? Yes? No, right? So just because you're good at Facebook doesn't make you an IT expert. It just means that you spend too much time on Facebook, all right? You cannot make money from that. Some people do, but most people don't, okay? So my job today is to explain what does it mean to study IT, all right? And IT is not one thing. Right? The worst part, I'm sure that I have got 3 former students who are alumni, very successful here, and I'm probably they can tell you, when you tell people that you're going to study IT, the next thing is, I've got a virus on my computer, can you fix it? Right? That's my life. Earlier on, you know, these things were not working, can I fix it? No, I can't, right? Because IT means very different things nowadays. So the way tonight is going to work is I'm going to do a short presentation, and then I want you to ask questions if you have any questions. And then we're going to hear from our alumni, 3 people who are working in the space to look at their experiences, and then provide you with the opportunity to ask more questions. And then the last bit will be if you have questions on how to get into Melbourne University, how to study various things at the university as well. Okay, so that's how it's going to roll. All right. So the very first thing is this. If you look at IT, IT is pervasive. By pervasive, I mean it's everywhere. It's everywhere because it's everything to do with social networking, mobile phones, mobile banking, computer games, everything. Even your fridge, right, is now telling you what to do. Right? So this idea that IT is so much a part of our lives, and yet most of us don't give it a second thought until there is no electricity. Right? And then everything becomes a problem, right? Those of you who have alarm systems that are digitally controlled, what happens if the power runs out, right? Things like that. So in looking at the study of IT, we're really not just looking at that box, the laptop, or the mobile phone. We're talking about how it impacts on all our lives. We're talking about how it impacts on governments. We're talking about how you buy things, all through to how you vote for governments, right? So this means that IT has a fundamental influence on the way we live and the way we interact with each other. So it is everywhere. You know, how many of you use Google Maps to get here tonight? Right? Right. So imagine if there wasn't that, you will all still be walking. It's a beautiful campus, but it gets creepy at night. So, you know, the fact that you got here using Google Maps is an IT solution. But does anyone here want to study how to make better Google Maps? It's actually, you can get a career out of it. But people don't think about it because they're so used to consuming technology without thinking about the creation of technology. Somebody has to create it. Right? I went to a girls' school a couple of years ago and spoke to the whole assembly, and there were about 96 girls. So I got to speak to the whole year 12. And I said, all right, how many of you use IT? And the whole assembly was great. All these girls, we all use IT. And I said, how many of you are interested in an IT job in the future? There were these 3 girls sitting right here. They're like, right? Because they don't want people to think they're nerds, right? They said, no, that's okay. The 3 of you stand up. So it's cruel, very evil of me. So now look at everyone. I say, okay, you all see the 3. The rest of you who are using IT, you'll spend the rest of your lives paying them money. Because you're all using IT, and only the 3 of them are creating IT. Think about it. This is really important, and it impacts on our life and the way that we think about IT. All right, so I want to share something else with you. And this is let's see if this works. Yay, it works. Why did I show you that? Because if you're trying to solve problems, it's no longer just one thing. You know, that took a team of robotics engineers, IT people, musicians, as well as computer-human interface designers, occupational health and safety, all of that to work together to try and solve a problem. And it works. It works better than an IT person saying, you know, flashing a sign that says, you would do better if you use the stairs instead of the escalators. Nobody's going to do that, right? So this is the thing. When you look at the future, it is powered by IT. But that's a very tall order. That means that it's kind of like saying IT is going to drive the way the world works, but IT is not one thing. And this is where the confusion starts to set in, right? Because you will hear in the newspapers that a whole bunch of IT jobs are going to be outsourced, and they are going to be not going to be offering those jobs here in Australia, and it's going to the Philippines, right? You've heard those? Yeah? So, and yet, people keep telling you, but there are IT jobs here. So obviously, if you put 2 and 2 together, you start to see there are different types of IT, right? And some IT jobs are not growing here in Australia. Some are booming, all right? So tonight, I'm going to talk you through some of these. But before I do that, I want to show you the trends of employment. Now, the figures and the dates are going to be interesting for you to look at. So you can see that this one is from 1996 to 2011. At the lowest level was around the dot-com bust. Yes, for the parents who remember the dot-com bust, when jobs went from, wow, so amazing, everybody wants to do IT, to nobody wants to do IT, right? But since then, we've recovered and have kept going up. This is the demand for ICT skills up to 2011. If I were to move 2 more years, it's still going up, and this is only in Victoria. You can see that, right? Now, since then, so we're talking 4 to 5 years since then, you look at the numbers, it's more than what was expected there. In 2016, you're looking at these sorts of numbers. That's pretty big, right? So it keeps going up. And they're expecting that by 2022, you look at the increases. The only one that's decreasing is kind of the electronics, chips, and all that sort of stuff, right? Everything else is going up, but particularly ICT management and operations, okay? And also the ICT logistics support, okay? So the numbers are going up in terms of jobs, right? Remember the 96 girls that I spoke to, okay? Now, enrollments in IT programs. Now, I want you to spend 10 seconds on this. Where is IT? This is the number of Australian students who are enrolled in IT programs. Okay? Where is IT? Is it the top? No. Is it the second? Is it the third? We're not getting any better. It's, in case you're wondering, it's orange. It's third from the bottom, right? So what this means is this is the demand for IT jobs going up like that. And this is the supply of IT skills. All right, now I'm Telstra, all right? I've got a whole section that requires IT skills. But I can't hire anyone here because no one's studying IT. What do I have to do? I have to go overseas where there are skills. Now, how you report news is very interesting, isn't it? Right? But then there are also other skills in IT where it is much cheaper to just hire outside. So you couple those two together, then we'll just go offshore. Okay? But there are things that you cannot put offshore, right? Things like understanding the users here in Australia. Somebody in South Africa might not be able to understand that. Okay? Cybersecurity. No way am I going to outsource my cybersecurity to somebody in North Korea, for example. Even if they have fantastic skills and they are 10 times cheaper, I'm just not going to do it, right? And you can work out why, right? So this issue around demand and supply becomes really important. And one of the things is to understand where are the ICT skills. And so the slide before shows you where the growth areas are and where it's not growing. So now I'm going to talk to you about the different types of IT. Okay? So I'm going to start by, this one, I like to show you this one too. These are some of the jobs, right? Have you heard of these job titles? They are real jobs, by the way. You can actually make money from them, okay, per annum. All right? None of these jobs existed 10 years ago. None of these jobs existed 10 years ago. So we're training a whole generation of IT people for jobs that are yet to exist as well. Because in the next 5 to 10 years, there'll be different ways that IT is driving the industry and government and society, right? So what are these IT areas? Well, let's start with computer science. Computer science is what a lot of people talk about when they talk about studying IT. This is the very science of IT, right? It's the people who are really interested in algorithms and really interested in programming, okay? This is as technical as you can get. These are the people who are interested in things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, the algorithms. You've got to be pretty good at mathematics to be able to do this, okay? These are the best of the best, my computer science students, all right? They're really interested in logical thinking and building strong algorithms, right? Very important because it drives everything else. This is the fundamentals, okay? Absolutely the bedrock of all of IT. Then you've got the software engineers. These are the people who turn the languages and the codes that the computer scientists build into apps and software that you and I can use, all right? Because not all of us can go in to look at the hard code to make a computer work or to make something work for us. So the software engineers build software for us to interface with the computers, right? So a lot of the software engineers tend to work in teams because it's multidisciplinary to use IT to build software and apps that many people can use. You see the difference between computer science and software engineer? Okay, there's going to be a test at the end of this, by the way, so you have to pay attention, right? The next one is spatial information science, right? These are the people who use the computer scientists' work and the software engineers' work to build things like Google Maps, all right? And to also understand spatial information, so control of traffic lights, control of density of movement, right? They're interested in spatial information, measuring how big, how deep, how wide, right? The Army uses this a lot, for example. You can imagine why it's important. The emergency services, how quickly you can get from one point to the other, all those sorts of things, right? So this is a crucial and growing area as well, okay? Then you've got information systems. This is my people. I teach in information systems. And our fundamental philosophy is this. You can create the best software and you can create the best IT, but if people don't want to use it, it's a waste. Right? So we're interested in how information is shared between people, how IT is used in community, in society, in business. So those of you who study information systems, we tend to teach you a combination of business and information technology together. So it's more applied to various contexts. Okay? Then we've got the informatics and data science group. The informatics and data science group are the people who really like to play with information. So those of you who have heard of the term data science, this is it, right? And you have to be very good at math and stats as well for this, right? Not only are you using statistical analysis, you're also using data that you get from the internet. Remember, I opened this session by saying that we have a lot of information in the digital space. The data scientists scrape the data from the internet, analyze it, and present it. All right? So you have to be pretty good at maths and stats, okay? The one slide that I don't have up there, which is part of information systems, is also human-computer interaction, which is probably the least programming type of the IT jobs. That's you looking at how people interface with technology. They're interested in user experience, UX, okay? So HCI and UX. So some of our students are doing really exciting work in that space. One of our PhD students is actually creating an app for the orangutans in the zoo to communicate with human beings and to play games with us. So it's moving beyond humans to apes. If they It's pretty cool, right? Because this is the kind of thing that you start to think about the potential of IT, right? So now, this is where the test is, right? If you all could take a vote, everyone in this room can take a vote. There are so many different areas of IT. The question that I have for you is, what kind of IT are you? Okay, so I'm going to ask this question. So put your hands up if you think you're a computer scientist. A few here and there, great. Put your hands up if you're a software engineer, you really want to do. Yeah, okay. Anyone interested in Google Maps and spatial? Yeah, special. You're not only spatial, you are also special, okay? What about information systems and user experience and business IT? Yeah, we make the money. Don't tell the others. Don't tell the others. What about the data analytics and data science? Fantastic. So you see, they're all different, right? And you know what? I tell my students this. If you're interested in computer science or software engineering, focus on that. Don't try and fight for a job with the information systems consultant, right? You wouldn't get that job, but you will get the job where you are excelling in. It's the same as the people who are good at UX, trying to get a job with computer scientists, forget it. You're not going to get a job there. Your programming is not high enough. But the computer scientists can't do your job because they don't like to talk to human beings. Right? Okay. That's a bit of a stereotype. It's really unfair. All right. So that gives you a sense of the different types of IT that you could be getting involved in. And later on, we are going to talk about how you study those different areas if you come to Melbourne University, right? But now, do you have any questions for me before I introduce the panel? Yes?
This is more of a uni question, but we do like more than one discipline.
If you come to the undergrad space, we try to give you a broad range of one or two before you specialize in one. Yeah. Eventually, you start to narrow down your focus and see where you're more interested in. Yeah.
Can I take IT as a breadth subject?
Yes, you can.
Like all the majors can.
It's more a more general kind of thing where we teach you how programming works, we teach you how informatics works, so that you get a sense of a range of things. Yeah? So you can do it as breadth or you can do it as a whole separate diploma. If you do a separate diploma, it will take you an additional half year beyond your 3 years degrees. Then you get a diploma in informatics. Or you can just do it as 4 or 5 subjects as breadth to add to, say, your science degree or your commerce degree, for example. Yeah? Any other questions? Yeah.
Would you need a bachelor to actually do a master's?
Yes, yes, you would. So a bachelor in any degree to get into the Master of Information Systems. But for Master of IT, you need to have done some programming in your bachelor's, right? And for ME software, you need to do more of the computing and software systems. We'll take you through that a bit later. Now, do you want to hear, go for it.
For someone coming from high school, year 12,
Yes.
if they are interested in health informatics,
Yes?
what would they be doing at Melbourne?
Okay, you can do a Bachelor of Science and do health type subjects as well as IT subjects.
Would they be doing concurrent diploma?
Yeah, that's possible as well, right? In fact, I mean, you could do that, or there are some students who focus on the science and then do the Master of Information Systems in Health after they do the undergrad as well, which if you look at other universities, it's like a combined degree, right? The combined degree means you do 2 concurrent degrees, undergrad, in 4.5, 5 years. Ours here, you do 3 years, your undergrad, then you do the 2-year master's. The difference is that we really challenge you at the master's level. So you get a master's degree out of it. So you get 1 undergrad and 1 master's. Right? Yes?
What's the best undergrad degree to do if you want to use IT?
There are 2 possibilities, and I'll talk about that later on. Yeah, is that all right? There's a Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Design. Yeah. Okay?
Do you have to do a master's to get a job?
It's an excellent question. No, you don't have to. However, this is what the companies are telling me, All right, so don't take my word for it. This is what the companies are telling me. The students who have done an undergrad degree, all right, this is their career trajectory once they get into the company. All right, the career trajectory of our master students is like this. Okay, now why, we don't know. But anecdotally, that is what the companies are telling us, right? Perhaps it's because you're joining the workforce a bit later, you're more mature, so by the time you hit in, you are more mature and you are moving faster. However, we in the master's program also have to add value, right? Why would anyone do a master's program, right? If they are going to spend money to come back and spend 2 more years and all that, it has to have value. So it's not for everyone, but every student is a bit different. The reality is a lot of our students, and you'll hear from Lucy later on, that a lot of our students finish their undergrad and go and be quite successful. We also have a number of students who will go out into the workplace and then come back a couple of years later as well. Yeah?
For software engineering, like how much, like you said computer science is a lot of math, so how much math is?
It's quite a bit. Calculus. The thinking is similar, but it is the subjects are less focused on maths, but there are more subjects that require the same style of thinking and logical reasoning compared to software. Okay? All right. Shall we hear from ones that we prepared earlier on? Okay. Can you please join me in welcoming Lucy, Shane, and Eva? Okay. So I'm going to give Eva this and Lucy this. So, and is yours on?
Hello?
Mute.
Hello?
Yep.
Nice.
Great.
Cool.
Okay, so you can see who they are. Are they sitting in, oh wow, they're even sitting in the order of the slides. Fantastic.
Good job.
This is how well trained our students are. I'm kidding. All right, so I thought that it would be good to listen to what our former students have to say so that you're not just listening from me. So I might kick off by asking them a few questions that they can think about. So what made you decide to study IT in the first place?
Yeah, as it said up there, I was initially doing a physics undergrad. That's what I sort of came in planning to do. And someone was like, oh, you should do a bit of computing because that'll really help with your physics. There's obviously a whole bunch of data there. It'd be good to know what to do with it. Did the subject, liked it a lot more than the physics, and there was a lot more jobs at the end of it. So yeah, switched my major. It's working out.
Okay.
I studied IT. My undergrad was accounting and finance, and I was actually working in retail, so JB Hi-Fi for about 5 years. And what I saw, I also worked at the Australian Red Cross Blood Service, and I saw that there was a lot of people using technology, but kind of like the anecdote says, you know, I was teaching the older people how to use the technology in those roles. And I saw there was a lot of value in technology that wasn't being used appropriately, but I didn't have the skills, the knowledge, the influence, or the relationships to be able to maximize the value from that technology. And so that was really the kickstarter for me to go and change my career and actually quit my job and went back to uni and did a master's in information systems, which is all about maximizing the value in technology.
Okay, Eva?
Yeah, for me, I did my bachelor degree of mathematics, and so I deal with lots of data, and after I graduated, I realized, oh, I need more knowledge about kind of like programming and technology, so I switched my major to information systems.
Okay, so I guess what were the highlights from your time studying IT? Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed sort of being on campus and being around a lot of, there was sort of always interesting things happening either within the department or run by student clubs, so really interesting talks from people in industry or from sort of other researchers. And so that was an aspect I really enjoyed about being at Melbourne Uni, and so being exposed to all of that, sort of what was going on out in the wider world.
I think exposure is a real big part of that. When I did my master's, I was fortunate enough to go to Singapore and study for an entire month at Nanyang Technological University. And I think it says up there I also did an internship with ThoughtWorks, EY, and BCG. And I appreciate maybe, maybe not to all of you are not familiar with those companies, but they're actually quite famous out there in industry, and these are really big brand names, and they were definitely really good to have on my CV, which really did help me to get a job after I finished.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of the same. We got exposed to the industry because they usually invite people who are in the industry to give us talks when I was in uni. Also, I also learned a bit like programming things such as database, Java, which I thought it's very helpful for me. And also, it kept me updated to the latest technologies, which is very helpful for your career as well.
Okay. Was it difficult studying at Melbourne Uni? You can be honest. You've already passed, so it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, no one comes to uni expecting to do sort of nothing for 3 years. But I found it was really interesting, challenging. So you spoke a bit before about you sort of want math skills to do computing, and I was decent at maths in high school, but I didn't love it. But whereas with computing and sort of computer science, it's a similar thinking, it's similarly sort of logical and problem solving. But I found it really fun in a way I never did with maths. Maths I kind of had to do, and computing I was like, actually, this is really cool. I really enjoy this sort of problem solving aspect of it. So it's hard, but it's enjoyable. And that was the reason I switched my major, because I actually found the work enjoyable.
The real answer to that question, when people ask me, I told them that it was more intense than a full-time job. And I was working at JB Hi-Fi, I was working 40 hours a week, and when I came to this master's, I was doing 40 to 60 hours. And that was actually through sheer love of the curriculum and the subjects that I was studying. It's very different to work and then feel like you're working versus working and actually having fun and enjoying yourself. And when the time flies and you're doing something, you're doing it the right thing. And so I feel about IT.
Yeah, and for me, because I'm an international student, so at the start it was quite hard because of the language barrier, or because I came from a non-technical background. So for me, the start was hard. But when you learn more about the industry, about what you're gonna do, it's become easier, and you will enjoy it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your job now. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so I work for a Melbourne tech startup called Rome to Rio, and we do sort of A to B travel search. So Google Maps might be handy from getting you from home to uni today, but Rome to Rio is about, how do I get from London to Amsterdam, and do I get the train or do I get the bus, and where do I then buy tickets for those things, and so on. So it's sort of a global travel search thing, and I sit on the data and integrations team. So I'm a full stack engineer, which means I touch sort of the front end, which is what makes the website look good, and I touch the back end, which is what makes the website work. And I work on flights primarily. That's sort of my pet project.
Cool.
I work at KPMG, which is one of the big four accounting firms. Been there for about maybe a year and a half now. Some days I'm a business analyst. Other days I'm a developer writing code. Some days I'm actually a project manager, managing a group of people. It depends, but working in management consulting, working in technology, we work with a wide variety of clients to help them maximize the use of technology in any situation and help them solve their problems.
For me, I work for Capgemini, which is a global IT consulting firm. And also because I'm in customer experience team, so sometimes I deal with user experience projects, and I also work as a business analyst to redesign the user journey for our clients.
Okay. And what sort of skills, we talk about technical skills, right? But what other skills are really important to get out of studying IT that is helping you in your work?
Yeah, I'd say a lot. You sort of hear it a fair bit, but contrary to your stereotypes from earlier, it doesn't do you much good if you can't sort of speak to people, and if you can't sort of effectively communicate. So I've found that really helpful, being able to speak clearly about what I'm doing or why I'm doing something, communicate that to sort of other maybe non-technical people in the business. And having those softer skills has definitely been a huge advantage for me, and has really helped a lot, I think.
Yeah. Shane, you were ACS, that's the Australian Computer Society's ICT Student of the Year. So you must have done something right.
Yeah. It's funny, I think one of the things that I definitely took away from having done masters is actually how to talk to people is a really big part of it, but it also depends what you're good at and what you do. And for me, it was bringing a little bit of coding, a bit of speaking to people, business analyst, and bringing it all together and being able to play that back to people that I felt really did help me to achieve that. But these are kind of like the soft skills, and what you find, or what I found when I was out there trying to get a job, is that companies are actually hiring people for the way they think as well. And to be able to think in a particular way, whether you're a computer scientist or whether you're an information systems graduate or informatics data scientist, different companies will have different needs. And it's actually just about doing what you find enjoyable. And if that happens to fall into one of those remits, it's definitely to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Like first, the communication skills is very important because you have to talk with people every day in a meeting or just like your personal life. Second, I also found you need to develop your self-learning ability because like maybe for us, we've already graduated, but it doesn't mean we stop learning. You have to learn new things every day. So how to develop your self-learning skills and learn quickly is very important for you. Yeah.
I think just further that, just definitely like software engineering jobs, there's always like a flavor of the month, and so you come out of uni and you're like, oh god, everyone's hiring for jobs in like Ruby or Elixir or like Vue.js or whatever the current buzzword is, and so you can do a boot camp, you can learn those skills in 6 weeks or 6 months, but yeah, coming out of a full degree, it teaches you how to learn new things, and so it doesn't matter. Like I got hired into my job never having worked in the language that we use because I knew how to pick it up and I knew the underlying concepts. And that's really valuable.
I think that's a good point. I mean, we teach you guys how to learn, and that's the key thing, that you can pick up anything after that, rather than teaching you a particular set of languages, and then you don't have the fundamentals to learn. Do you think it's true? Some people say that Melbourne Uni is more theoretical, and there's not enough practical stuff. What do you think of that?
It definitely does lean theoretical, which was something I really liked about it. It's partly why I'm at my current company. So Rome to Rio is travel search. It's essentially a massive graph search optimization, which you spend sort of 6 months doing in second year. So I like that it's really theoretical. That's what I sort of like about the industry. It's that problem solving stuff. You're not going to come out of a Melbourne Uni degree being like, a web dev. If you wanted to just be a web dev, then, go and do a boot camp for 6 months and get a job as a web developer. But that's not what Melbourne Uni is trying to do. It's trying to sort of teach those like fundamental skills, certainly in computer science and software engineering. It's designing good systems. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when you're going for a job and when you actually know the answer to an interview question and you actually know it really well and you bring that extra little bit of insights on top of it or experience and you really bedazzle the interviewer, that's when you're on the money, right? Mm-hmm. And having done the master's course, Masters in Information Systems, I remember just being so comfortable and so at ease answering a lot of different interview questions. How would I tackle a particular situation, or, what would I do in this situation? And that was having done, projects like project management or requirements engineering and all these different subjects that were in that master's curriculum were actually out there in the market that companies needed. And they needed it yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, from my perspective, I feel like it depends on your role. For example, if your role is kind of like developer, so it's very technical. In this case, the uni like give you all those necessary skills you need for this job. But for example, if you want to get a job as a project manager, it's impossible to get those soft skills or people management skills in uni. So you have to learn those skills, or just like maybe find another way to educate yourself.
Okay, enough questions from me. I'm sure I've warmed you up. Do you guys have questions for them? Oh, there's another question. Are you guys well paid? Do you consider yourself well paid? Because that's important, right? You want a well paid job, right? Are you guys happy with
Yeah,
your-
I mean,
yeah.
I'll put it this way.
Don't tell us how much.
No, but I mean, yeah, I came out of a 3-year undergrad, and I'm making more than my sister with her 6-year law commerce undergrad. So, like, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. Shanton gave the sloping trajectory versus the up one. Having done the masters, I'm definitely on this, which is testament to that. Yeah.
Yeah, from my experience, if you study IT, you not like in all cases, but normally you get high pay. Yeah.
Because there's so few of you guys, that's the reality, right? Okay, questions? Yeah.
What did you love most about it's not too abstract.
Yeah, for me, as I sort of said before, it was like the problem solving part of it. Like I've always sort of really loved logic puzzles, and so programming tapped into that in a way that like maths never did. Like maths, there's the same problem solving aspect, but I was like, go do maths, homework. But yeah, I really love that about sort of writing code and finding the best way to solve a problem that's the fastest and the neatest. And
Did you say love or learn?
Love.
Love. Love.
What did you love most about? Yeah.
I think perspective. I loved building a perspective, right? And there's an understanding. There's this age-old analogy, and when you study IT, you become really familiar with analogies and ways of explaining things in ordinary day life to try and explain what you meant in IT terms, right? And there's this iceberg analogy, which is, 1/3 is on the top that everyone can see, but there's actually 2/3 underneath the water. That's where most of it is. And so I loved, studying IT and then building that perspective, that understanding in a particular field. That's what I loved.
Yeah, for me, it's more like I saw there are lots of opportunities in IT, and when I learn more, when I have more experience in this area, I feel like my future has more possibilities. So I quite enjoy it.
Yeah. Question, yes.
While you're considering doing MIS, have you considered doing MIT?
Okay, so the question is, while you're considering doing MIS, did you consider doing MIT, which is the more technical version? Maybe Eva? Yeah, please.
Yeah, for me, because I came from a non-technical background, so I didn't consider to do IT. It's quite scary for people without any technical background to start to do IT straightforward. It's because I have many like friends who did IT, and all of them are not like all of them. Most of them are like coming from Bachelor of Computer Science or Information Technology. So it's easier because they assume you to have some sort of technical skills, for master, I mean.
Yeah, I think for me, it's really a process of self-discovery as well. And that is, some people are more very exceptional logical thinkers, and that really emerges in their personality and the way they try to solve problems, etc. And other people are maybe more skewed towards relationship development and, getting along with people. And I think that was kind of defining for me, and it was, hey, I appreciate the logic and I understand that, but actually I'm probably more skewed towards the softer side of that.
There's often an accompanying question to that when I have had people ask me which of these IT areas has more jobs, right? And my answer to that is not which IT area has more jobs. If you have an IT area that has a lot of jobs, but you are not that type of IT, even though you study it, you're not going to get a job there. Like what I was saying earlier on, right? It's kind of like if you're a good computer scientist, right, you're not going to try and get a job in UX or IS analysis, for example, because your skill set is valued in computer science, not so much in IS. In the same way, if you're an excellent IS, you can't do the most basic code that some computers like Lucy can do, for example. So it's not about which IT has more job. It's more answering the question of which IT are you. And then if you're good at that, you get a job in that area. Would that be fair to say?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for that.
No problem.
Leading to that question,
Yeah.
if someone is interested in data science,
Yes.
informatics,
Yes.
should they be choosing MIS or
If you are interested in data science, you do the Master of Data Science. We actually have a Master of Data Science that some people are not aware of, and we will point that out to you. But Master of Data Science is really important that it is 50% a mathematics and stats degree. So it's not just IT. That means you can't do the, logical thinking is good enough. I can do the IT side and try to ignore the maths. You cannot. With the data science, it's absolutely right there. Yeah. Yes.
I was just wondering, can you give us some examples of the projects you did while you were at uni and how that honed your communication skills?
So what projects did you do at university that helped to hone your communication skills?
Yeah, so one of the, which I think is the fairly recent addition to the undergrad, or it's something that I've sort of been working a lot recently, is one of your final capstone projects is a semester-long group project where you get your team together at the start of the semester and you have to build an app from scratch. And at the end, you essentially have to sort of sell it to your lecturer or present it and talk it up. And that's really valuable. I found that probably the most helpful as far as my subjects go. In that you're running a little mini startup for 6 months. But I also found I was really involved with clubs and societies when I was at uni. So I was committee for Women in Science and Engineering. I was involved with CISA, which is like the Computing and Information Student Society. And so getting involved with them, going along to a lot of the events, doing workshops. They run hackathons, and sort of doing other hackathons outside of university. Like there's lots of opportunities there. If you just do the sort of coursework, you'll come out with a decent set of skills. But if you take all these other opportunities which are right there, then yeah, you'll be really set up at the end of the degree.
I'll give you two subjects. One is professional IS consulting, and the other one is IT project and change management. IS professional consulting, what we had to do is we had to go out into the market, try and find a tender for a project, and we had to respond to it. So we actually had to do like here's a project, for example, maybe the Fair Work Australia needs a new case management system, right, to handle all the new cases. So we had to go out, we had to do an analysis, how would we respond to this bid? Then we actually had to present it back to the class. And then we had to go back and do another one where we proposed an improvement to it. And then repeat that back to the class. And this is developing our presentation skills, our analysis skills, our ability to perhaps come up with cost, right? Come up with risks, etc. And respond to a professional IT tender. The second project was IT project and change management. We had to develop a risk register. We had to build requirements, based on how people were going to use technology. And we had to build these actual tangible documents that, in the consulting world, we consider deliverables. People pay for these things. And here we were in university testing it out for the first time.
In uni, we had lots of group projects, so which means several people need to work together to figure out a solution. And sometimes we need to contact people in the industry or in a specific organization to interview them, to gather information and to do analysis and figure out solution for them to improve their process. Yeah, like this. So from this process, you will improve your communication skills.
And there was a question.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether you use any AI within your jobs, like machine learning, neural networks, anything like that, and if you studied any of that within your undergrads or postgrads.
I did study it during undergrad. I think it's a artificial intelligence third year subject where you get introduced to all the concepts, but I don't use it in my job.
I don't use it in my job, but in the master's course we did learn Java. I don't know if it still holds true, but the kind of saying at the time was if you knew how to code in Java, there was nothing that could kind of stop you if you were persistent, right? Because it's kind of like a foundational language. And I found that's definitely helped. Like I had to code in JavaScript once and then VBA, etc. But I think AI is maybe next level. I'm not too sure. Haven't encountered that yet.
Yeah, I don't use AI in my job, but in terms of Java, because now it's my third month of my job, and I was in the Java training, like full-time Java training for 1 month.
We teach it more in the MIT program and the Master of Science Computer Science program, where there is a whole suite of machine learning and AI. They're different things, but and those students, they work in different industries.
Yeah.
Well.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I want to ask, what do you think of those independent developers?
So you mean like self-taught, or
Yeah, like you organize a studio to develop an app, not like to be in a company.
Also freelancing or doing a startup, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So it's kind of, some people choose not to work for a particular company and they want to start up their own studio.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So bit of backstory. I did an internship with PwC, who are another one of sort of the big consultancy firms, and I was like, oh god, no, this is not for me. Like, this is not the rest of my life. So that's how I actually ended up at Rotorua, because they're like a really chill company. Like, I rock up at 10:30 most days in my active wear, and that's completely fine. So I sort of didn't want to work for a big company. I wanted something which was like smaller, and you can move fast and you can break things, and it's interesting and it's fast paced. Sort of the next step on from that would be that being a contractor, and sort of either like a consultancy sort of contractor or like a sort of programmer, software engineer contractor. Whilst you could get a job like that straight out of an undergraduate degree and probably more easily straight out of a master's, having a few years of sort of industry experience under your belt first will make that much easier. It's often your first job is hard to get, and then your second job is it's okay, and then after that it's just effortless. So if that's something you'd want to do, you'd probably still want to do a few years working in industry first, before then sort of striking out on your own. But there's definitely a lot of scope for it.
We try to provide students with the opportunity to work with startups while they are here at university as well. So we are part of a few consortiums. So there's the Melbourne Accelerator program, there's the Team Beta startups and various startups that students can get involved with before they decide to do their own startup and their own software development house. Because it's a bit like learning on the job while you're doing that as well. Different to the big consulting firms. Right? You had a question?
Yes. I was thinking, why should I do a single IT degree at Melbourne Uni as opposed to doing an IT degree as well as something else at, say, ANU, for example?
But that's the same thing, right? So I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
And why you wouldn't want to do like a double degree instead?
Yeah. Because I know Melbourne doesn't do a double degree, so I was just wondering, like, what?
Yeah.
Should I consider this more than a double degree option?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Melbourne doesn't do sort of strictly double degrees, but that's not to say that you only end up with one discipline sort of under your belt at the end of it. So like I did a fair bit of physics right through to sort of the end of second year, so I ended up with 2/3 of a physics degree, as well as my comp sci degree. But also through breadth, there's a lot of capacity to do other subject areas, and so you can do, a lot of my friends have done breadth tracks where they end up with diplomas in other things as well by the end of their undergrad. But often if there's sort of a true double degree in another university where you end up with 2 undergraduate degrees come graduation, often the time commitment is pretty comparable to doing a 3-year undergrad and then coming back and doing a master's or doing further coursework. And so that's what I'm planning on doing. So, a few years I'd like to come back to uni and do a master's, but it means I can go and get a great job off just my undergrad, and live a bit in the real world before I come back to uni.
We do have a range of students who might have done a commerce degree and then done the Master of IT or Master of IS. So in that same 4.5, 5 years they get a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, so they're still getting 2 degrees. So they're not just doing an IT degree per se as a result. Very few students just have an IT degree here at Melbourne. Question? Yeah.
I just had a follow on that for just after Lucy's comment about breadth. So just wondering what you guys did in breadth, if you did your undergrad here, and whether you found that useful in your careers as well.
What did you do in breadth? Do you remember?
Oh no, I did all sorts in breadth. I did some Islamic studies subjects because I thought that was interesting and sort of very currently relevant. I did debating science and society, which is sort of like you'd have a topic each week and you'd sort of research that and then come and have a 2-hour-long discussion with everyone in your tube, which I found really interesting. I did a lot of history and philosophy of science, which is sort of a meta view of what is science and how do we define science and what's it mean to be scientific about things. So I'm not one of those people who came in with a very clear sort of breadth plan. I picked and choose quite a bit. And yeah, so from each of those subjects you pick up things. I learned quite arts heavily. I like speaking and I like writing, so it was nice to still be able to do that even though I was doing like a very technical degree.
One of my students 2 years ago did African drumming. That's great.
Yeah, there's wine. There's like a wine one
Yeah.
as well. Which people go in and they're like, oh great, this will be nothing. It's 2 weeks out on the Wiki campus.
Yeah.
It's really intense. It's like all the grape varieties and like science and
Yeah,
winemaking.
I have a student working in IT in the viticulture industry, and she did wine, and then she's now working in the wine industry, not making wine, but helping them sell wine in the online space. So you get that. The African drumming student went from not being able to talk to anyone to being able to just get up and perform and talk about IT. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
What's the benefits of doing like a diploma in informatics and a Bachelor of Commerce, for example? Like, what's the benefits in doing a diploma as opposed to like a certificate?
I guess in a way, that gives you your commerce degree, but you also have a minor in the IT. And you know, what company doesn't need some IT, right? And so that gives you a step above just your average commerce student. So you can apply for jobs in the IT space as well as in the commerce space. That effectively gives you that. Yeah.
Okay, expanding on the double degree question, there's this perception that people with double degrees like they get jobs easier because they have multi degrees.
Yeah.
Do you get the same effect with breadth subjects and electives?
No, because it's still the breadth is still within an undergraduate degree. So it gives you a lot of wider perspective so that you can perform well at job interviews to have more than one perspective. So it does help. Absolutely. I think that's really important.
But I also don't think you're at a disadvantage. I've only done one degree. I've found a job just fine. A lot of my friends have found a job just fine. Straight out of high school, it's very hard to know what you're going to be doing in like 4, 5, 10 years time. So if the other half of your degree is something that you don't want to work in, well, that doesn't help you. That's been 2 years you've wasted. So.
I would say that if you did a degree with 24 subjects and all 24 subjects are IT, that's not good. They might be like, yeah, I saw it, but you know, IT is in the context of everything around the world, isn't it? I mean, we have students in IT working from everything from fashion houses to the zoo. So it's all these things. It's not IT, you're just going to be IT. None of us work in that space, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, so if I were to take like a Bachelor of Commerce and then do a diploma in IT, since it's a diploma, not a full degree, will it be like intensive enough to provide the skills needed for the workplace?
I can explain that in a moment. I'll show you how that's done. Okay? I'll come back to answering that question.
So on the thing it says that Lucy and Shane Lucy took some time off to travel and everything, and Shane studied in Singapore for a while.
Yeah.
How did you find that, and like, did it make it harder to find all the subjects and everything that you need to do, and was it good?
So the traveling abroad, was it difficult to find subjects and all that sort of stuff? Yeah.
Part of that travel was I did a semester abroad, so I went to the University of Glasgow for 6 months. Glasgow has like a sick computer science department. Like Haskell is like anyway. So that was awesome, and because of the way semesters lined up, it meant I had, I think, 3 months where I could just like backpack around Europe between finishing my first semester at uni in Melbourne and then having to start in Glasgow. So I hadn't done a gap year, so it was like I got my like big travelling stint out of the way there. But then with sort of 1 semester to go, I took 6 months off and did a bunch of travel. And that's also when I did my internship. So I started my current company as an intern. Obviously they're a travel company and we all love to travel. But I didn't have any issues sort of slotting back into uni afterwards. I think I found it easier than a lot of my friends who take a gap year. Because I mean high school and uni are very different. But I knew what uni was, I knew what I was getting myself back into. And it gave me a lot of sort of great experiences and great perspective. So very glad I did it. Would recommend.
You grew up very quickly. Like you really do. Throwing yourself in a different comfort zone, different society. You realise that there's great people here in Melbourne, here at school, here at university, in your family, but there's also great people overseas. And you realise that very quickly. It's kind of like this all over the world. And it's about putting yourself out there, and all these kind of uncomfortable things about growing up very quickly that you get used to faster when you're in an environment like that. And when I studied in Singapore, I found out quite quickly what I was good at and what I wasn't. Where perhaps I needed to improve some of my own, with the social skills or presenting or all these different kinds of things. But it's about it's about chasing the unknown. It's trying to grow yourself and self-improve.
We had a Chinese student who came here as an international student and went on exchange to Singapore to do his internship in Singapore, and then came back as well. And did you guys get scholarships to go?
Yeah, we did.
University? Yeah. We try to encourage you guys to get out there as well. That's really important. We spend a lot of time mapping subjects as well, so you can get credit as well. So that's good.
I know a guy who went Poland, like Eastern Europe, on exchange, and ended up coming back with more money than left because the scholarship more than covered his living expenses. So like it's not super expensive to do either. So take advantage.
How did you go backpacking?
How did you go backpacking?
I'm pretty adventurous. I flew to Beijing and then got trains to Glasgow, so up through Mongolia and then across Russia through Eastern Europe. I was like 19. My mum was convinced I was going to die. Didn't, thankfully. I used Rondru, the company I now work for. That's how I discovered them. I used them for all that planning.
Now you're working for them.
And now I'm working for them, which is nice. But,
so at this point, all the parents are freaking out. So
I just sort of went. I had the time, and it was awesome.
So is it easy to get internships, and does Melbourne Uni help you get that? In like the summer vacations or whatever.
Does Melbourne Uni help you guys get internships?
Yes, for me, because I did my summer internship at NZ, which is like Shenton, and like it's one of the uni subjects and taught by Shenton, and helps me to get this opportunity because I didn't get my PR before I got the internship. So it helps us to kind of like skip this kind of barrier, but we also need interview for the job. But it's very helpful, and I feel like if you can have a placement before you graduate, it will be super helpful for your future job.
Melbourne Uni runs an internship subject that you can do as part of your undergrad and as part of your masters as well, it sounds like. And so there's obviously a lot of support around that. I ended up with my PwC internship because PwC are really involved with the Women in Science and Engineering Club, which I was part of. So rather than just cold applying somewhere, it was, I chatted to a recruiter at a bunch of events, and that made that whole transition much easier. But Stock One, who sort of the student services, they provide a lot of assistance around, writing a CV and preparing for interviews and stuff. So it is directly and indirectly.
Did you say it was a subject? Did you say internship was a subject?
Not my internship, but it is offered as an undergraduate subject. I sort of realised that it was brought in but just after I sort of already applied, so I could have gotten credit.
Yeah, and as I know, Melbourne Uni also provides you many like services, such as it helps you to revise your CV and mock interview to help you to get a job for a future interview.
There's no shortage of opportunities. You know, whether it's careers fairs or employee presentations, etc. Mentoring opportunities. There's quite a lot of different avenues that you can go down. Even academic staff have relationships with former employers, and there's some kind of network there where people are brought in to do guest lectures. Mentorships can happen that way. There's definitely lots of avenues.
Small world. When I applied for Room Career, I tutored for a lecturer, and so I got that lecturer to act as one of my references on my CV. I found out after I got the job that one of the guys who founded Room Career had been this guy's PhD candidate, so studied under him, which I'm sure helped.
The networking is really useful. We have alumni chapters almost in the different companies. So now if I have I just did this to Shane the other day. I said, there's this new student who's looking at working at KPMG. Can you just have a chat with him before they even go to interviews and all that? And so we do this with a number of companies now, NAB, all those sorts of things. And March, April, August, September are the crazy months for students and for us, because we on average have 2 to 3 companies on campus just talking to IT students. Not the whole university. This is just because they're not enough IT students in the world, right? These companies actually coming here to talk to students. The question is whether the students show up to listen and talk to them. That's a different thing altogether. So I could get 5 partners from Ernst & Young here, and I have 600 students, and I can barely fill this room. But the people who are in this room will be the ones who get the internships, right?
Would that invitation be extended to people who are only doing the diploma in informatics, or is that specific to
So as long as you're doing a subject with IT, you get invited. Yeah, that's your ticket. I'm kind of running out of time. Are there any questions before we move on? Yeah.
I got a question for Lucy. If you were to do a postgraduate with your experience and Bachelor of Science, what would you choose? Would you choose MIS or MIT? Are you going to be doing it?
I'd be leaning pretty heavily sort of computer sciencey, like very technical. There's a lot of sort of cool machine learning AI stuff going on. It's stuff I've sort of brushed on, I've touched on. I've got friends who came up in the year now working for Google DeepMind in London, and the work they're doing is fascinating. So, yeah, I'd like to do sort of definitely more research-based masters though, as opposed to coursework on the very academic one.
We always knew you weren't going to do MIS because you didn't want to work for PwC. See, this is the thing. You need to map out what type of IT you are. And it's clear that the 3 of you know what kind of IT you are, and therefore you are happy in that stream. Right? Thank you very much, and thank you for engaging with the 3 of them. They've had a long day at work and then come here to engage with you. I'm going to let them go so they can get on with their lives while we continue to talk to you about getting into the university. So please join me in thanking. Okay. Thanks, guys. Okay, so how did you study IT at Melbourne? So if you look at this is the undergraduate degree, right? The undergraduate degree is 3 years, and you can do any of these majors under the Bachelor of Science or the Bachelor of Design. So in the Bachelor of Science, you've got the Computing and Software Systems, right? Which is more the computer science, software engineering type area. You can do computational biology. So those of you who are interested in biology and computation and genetics and trying to bring those 2 areas together, this is kind of cutting edge as well. Data science, right? We talked about that. Mechatronics, if you like robotics, so there's a bit of engineering and IT together, and spatial systems, right, which we talked about earlier on. You could also do spatial systems in Bachelor of Design. Now, the Bachelor of Design is a new degree that was launched last year. And the computing major and the computing and software systems major are very similar. So the question that I get asked sometimes is, which one should I do if I'm interested in computing? The people who want to do, it's not about the major, it's about what else you do in the degree. Right? So this comes to your question. If you do Bachelor of Science, it means you are not only doing the computer science type major, but there are also other subjects that are more science-based. So you want to do more physics, you want to do more maths or whatever. But the design people are interested in taking the computer science and putting it into the more architecture and environments and all that sort of area and the design of it. Right? Digital technologies you can only do in the Bachelor of Design. So those of you who said, I'm interested in user experience, that sort of stuff, you know, that's digital technologies. It's co-taught by not only the School of Design, but also the Victorian College of the Arts and IT working together. Remember, collaboration is really important. And of course, spatial systems is about designing systems that are more usable as well. Or, if you choose not to do a major in IT, you can do any degree and do IT as breadth, as we talked about, which we've already talked about, or you can do the diploma in informatics. Now, how does this work? So, the diploma in informatics is 8 subjects. Okay? If you are already doing IT as breadth, it is likely that you would have done 3 to 4 subjects out of the 8 subjects. So far, so good? Right? So you do those 3 to 4 subjects as IT as breadth as part of your first degree, Bachelor of Commerce. You do 4 subjects in IT, right? But then you want to do another 4 subjects so that you get the diploma in informatics. So in the end, you do a 3.5 years, you do a Bachelor of Commerce plus another semester, and you get a diploma in informatics and your Bachelor of Commerce. Does that make sense? Right? So that's how it works. But obviously, if you're doing a major in design and in science, you don't need to do a diploma in informatics. Really, you've already covered a lot of the subjects. Okay. Then you can exit to employment like what Lucy did. Or, oops, that was quick. You can go into a master's. Now, the master's is where you start to diversify and you start to go, wow, this is what I want, this is what I do not want. So you've got a whole suite of Master of Engineering type subjects, which is the software engineering type, the spatial types, the mechatronics. Information systems is where organizations and IT value add. So we've got specialization in health. Okay. Professional is a term that we use to say it's the general Master of Information Systems, or you can do research in this area. Okay? For people who want to go on to do a PhD, for example, or want to go into the R&D side of Google or Microsoft, that sort of thing. All right? You've got the Master of IT, which is, as you can see, more technology-based and more programming, or the really hardcore computer science, which is in the Master of Science. It's a more research degree to find out more key fundamental issues like what Lucy was saying she was interested in. And then, of course, you've got the Master of Data Science for those who want to specialize in maths, stats, and IT. Okay? There's one that's not listed there because you can't go directly. You need to have a bit of work experience, and that's the Master of Business Analytics. And that's using data science on business data. Right? And that's an intensive 1-year program that students need at least 2-3 years of work experience before they can do it. Right? So in a nutshell, you look at all the different areas of IT that we've talked about, and you can do it through this pathway. But the question is not which degree should I be doing, the question is what are you interested in? Then you follow the degree. Okay? Now, do you have any questions for me?
Yes.
Yes.
I have a question that I'd like to be a postgraduate student. So what is the requirement to be a postgraduate student?
Okay. That's going to be a question that Nathan is going to be able to answer. Are there any other questions around the subjects and academics? If not, then I'll move on to Nathan to talk about getting into.
I'm just interested because it says there's a thing called software with business.
Yeah. So this is, it's basically a Master of Engineering software development subject, but then the breadth in that is all business subjects.
Oh.
right?
So it's kind of Master of Information Systems.
No, it's not. It's not. They're essentially software engineers, but they have a business background as well. Whereas IF is bringing IT and business together. They don't do software development. Okay? Yeah.
Yeah, there's another Melbourne University, which I won't name, that does honours degrees in computer science. So really a 3-year degree and then 1 year pretty applied project-based. So is that kind of somewhere in between? Degree and master's?
We don't have an honours degree here.
That's what I'm just trying to position.
Yeah. So our students would go and do the Master of Science in Computer Science, which would be a 2-year degree. Yeah. So in the 2-year, they'll have a full year of research at an advanced level and a full year of advanced coursework as well, beyond what the honours does.
So it's kind of honours plus.
Yeah. Pretty intense. Pretty intense. Yeah.
For a VC student, if they take algorithmic as a VC subject,
yes,
would they get exemption or credit if they're doing, say, a diploma in informatics or?
Okay. They do get the exemption for the first year algorithmic subject, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do. Question?
So you did mention about the diploma of informatics, but my earlier question was that because it's not like a 3-year degree, you know, it's an add-on to another bachelor. I was wondering if it has enough, you know, if the diploma will teach you enough skills and enough knowledge on IT to provide you enough information you need for the workforce.
Okay, so if you are doing a diploma in informatics, right? Again, it's more for students whose fundamental area is in commerce or arts, right? So they're not necessarily wanting an IT job. They want the IT component to help boost the difference, like what you were saying earlier on. You know, not only do you know accounting, for example, or arts management, you know how to talk to the IT firms in sourcing them and building apps, right? But you're not going to get an IT job. If you want to do an IT job, then do an IT major, right? So that's the thing. It's about enhancing your skill. It's not about this is what you're going to do.
And also, will we still get the fundamental?
Yes. Yeah. So a major is usually about 12 subjects. Well, no, it's not. It's not 12 subjects. It's 2. A major is about. I would say that if by the time you do a major, the requirement is about 8 subjects, but by the time you do a major in the area, you do another 2 to 3 more plus capstone and all that potentially, it comes to the equivalent of about 10 subjects or so, right? Where the, what do you call it? The diploma in informatics, you are just doing the coursework, right? So you're doing fewer subjects, right? So it's not a double major. A lot of people call it a double major, but we don't call it a double major, unfortunately. Yeah.
So I do VC algorithmics as well. On the website for the subject, it says that you have exemption into second year, like computing and software systems subjects. But if I'm interested in data science, does that get me anywhere else as well? Because I know you have to do, I think there's elements of data processing.
Yeah, you still have to do those, right? But you don't have to do the algorithmics.
To that, or do you not have to do the first?
You have to do that first.
Yeah,
okay?
but
you don't have to do the algorithmic subject. That's, does that make sense? Yeah.
It just didn't list that as a subject, but it gives you exemption into.
Okay, no, use.
So yeah, VC algorithmics, you receive an exemption for that subject, whereas the data, I know there's some schools that have that subject, data analytics, that it's just, we don't exempt that because the gap between what you learn at school and university is kind of, for that particular subject is
too much. Whereas the VCE algorithmics is actually designed by Melbourne Uni and Monash together to offer that. So it replicates what we would be teaching first year students, whereas the other one is not. It's a year 12 subject. Yeah. So you only get exemption for the algorithms, not the other.
Yeah. So you've done a research project with a thesis of, say, 10,000 words as part of your, say, honours undergrad. Can you get a credit for the research component of the computer science masters?
No, because The computer science master's project is about 40,000. So it's a big project. Yeah, that's a very good question. It's a very good question.
Can you do a bachelor's in commerce and data science at the same time?
No, if you do a Bachelor of Commerce, then your best option is to do a diploma in informatics to support it, or IT as well. There is no IT major within the Bachelor of Commerce. Right? Which is why a lot of our Bachelor of Commerce students do IT as well, and when they finish it, they don't bother to do the diploma in informatics, because they know they're going to finish the Bachelor of Commerce, and they come and do the Master of Information Systems. So it's all done in the double degree time of 5 years. Yeah.
So I'm from Trinity College Foundation Studies.
Yes.
But I do take math one, however, as you mentioned, like I have a feeling that this IT will be really math intensive. And so I don't do math too, so will it affect me when I
Now, what we mean is that, I mean, you have to have maths, but a lot of students haven't done IT to come and do IT, so we teach you from first year. So the only students who have done the kind of IT to the level we expect them to be able to be exempted are the students who have done BCE algorithms, right? But 90% of our students haven't done BCE algorithms, right? Yeah.
But it seems like math 2 is a prerequisite for computer science. So
yeah, of course. You know, everything that you do at Trinity is simple compared to first year here at uni.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is. It's more challenging. Yeah.
I mean, this Trinity is
no. We are more challenging.
Oh, yeah.
We are more challenging. Yeah.
Is any subject cover network security or cybersecurity?
Yes. Across the Master of IT, Master of Science, and also part of the engineering. And in Master of IS, we cover security from a point of risk assessment rather than the technical side. Because security is not just about the system, it's also about the weakest link, which is the human being using the system. Downloading something into the program which they're not supposed to. So we cover the whole range as well. And from next year, there's going to be a whole stream in the MIT that's just focused on cybersecurity as well. Yeah. Yes.
Just a question around the timing of the lectures and tutorials and labs. Are there afternoon and evening classes in the master's degrees?
It's really a mix. To be honest, I can't answer that question because timetabling is controlled centrally, and then there's us teaching it, you know. I've been known to teach classes at 5 to 7. Other lecturers are teaching from 6 to 8. Others are teaching on the weekend, but then just as many of us are teaching 10, 11. Yeah. So that's something to look at when you look at the handbook. Each year is different. The subjects are not the same from year to year either. So that's a bit difficult.
So you have the times in the as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the handbook, yeah.
The handbook, yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Is there a lot of lectures online? Are all the lectures online? Or do you attend or you have to attend all of them?
The majority of lectures are face-to-face and recorded. But most lecturers prefer that the students are here interacting with us because after all, it is the master's program. It's not an online program. So students get the most out of, because the way that I've run today, the interaction that we've had, is how most lectures are run. It's not me standing over there reading, right? So that means that the students who are, and that's why I was repeating some of the questions for those who are not here, so they can hear what you guys are asking as well, right? But if you are at home and you miss the lecture, then you have this 50%, you're not hearing what's going on in the interaction. So we always encourage students to come. The recording is more like a backup in case you fall sick and you've got the slides, but you want to see what are the key points of discussion. We certainly don't encourage students to, don't worry about showing up for class. Because you really should, especially for the algorithmic subjects. Nothing like being there watching the lecture view. Yeah.
Are these master's courses Commonwealth supported places?
That question, I'm an academic, I can't answer that question.
So for the Master of Engineering, MIS and MIT, yes. They are competitive entry, so not everyone gets a Commonwealth supported place. Students that attend the University of Melbourne for their undergraduate degree and then do the Masters, they have a guaranteed Commonwealth supported place. But if you're applying for the Masters from elsewhere, then there's it's a merit-based cut-off. And I believe there are the Master of Science and the Master of Data Science are not courses that sit in the School of Engineering, they sit in the Faculty of Science. So I believe there are CSPs for those as well, but the entry requirements might be a little bit different.
Are they required to take it up straight away after they graduate?
No, no.
Like can they sort of try and go out and work for a period of time?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah.
In the diploma in informatics, are the subjects mostly in MIS or MIT?
They're not. They're from the majors of the undergrad. Yeah.
So the diploma you can only do
undergrad
as an addition to another degree. You can't just do a diploma by itself.
What kind of subjects do you do with that diploma?
There's a whole range from reasoning with data. If you look at the handbook, it's any of the subjects from the Bachelor of Science. Yeah. Yes?
Comparing the skill set of other IT undergrads in other unis, the Melbourne model seems to be broader. Does it disadvantage undergrads in a way?
Not that our students are finding it. You know, because they go into a job and they can pick up any language very quickly, and then they know how to contextualize their IT skills. That's the important thing. That's why I say, don't be doing an IT degree where the entire degree is just IT. Then you don't have a perspective of how IT works in the real world. And that actually disadvantages you. So whichever university you go to, make sure that you have some elective subjects that are not IT in areas you're interested in, right? So I'll give you an example. One of my students is working at Sportsville. You know Sportsville, which is a fashion house, right? She has an IT degree, but part of the subject that she did was fashion merchandising. She would never have gotten a job in that space if she had done purely IT. So this is the thing about learning that IT is not just IT. You are not all going to work for Facebook and Microsoft or IBM. You are all going to work for a whole range of stuff that is driving you and that you are passionate about. And that is what is important. Right? So sometimes students make the mistake of thinking, I must do a degree that's 24 subjects of IT to be competitive. In actual fact, some companies think that actually makes you less competitive. And that's really important. Yeah?
Bachelor of Biomedicine, can it be done in concurrent with diploma in informatics?
That's a good question. We've never had a student do that. That I'm aware of. They might do IT as breadth. They do IT as breadth, but not. You know, because the students who really want to do that, they're better off doing the Bachelor of Science in computational biology. Yeah.
The Bachelor of Biomedicine has a very specific
Prescribed.
course structure, yeah, very prescribed. Yeah. So if you go into the biomedicine talk, that's probably a question for them. It's more about how do you fit in the extra subjects. Yeah.
Thank you.
How many breadth subjects are there for something like Bachelor of Science?
Between 4 and 6, am I right?
Yeah, you've got it.
Between 4 and 6. Okay, I might leave and let Nathan take you through the entry requirements and admissions. Hopefully I'll see some of you around. Good luck with your studies. Wherever you go, whichever university you go to, think about doing IT. Because it's about advantaging yourself, right? I've shown you the numbers, I've shown you, it's fine if you want to study commerce, that's great, but have some IT in it, because no business is going to operate in a vacuum of IT, right? Even if you do an arts degree, there's nothing stopping you from doing a bit of IT in it. A lot of our art students who do public relations and communications do IT, because a lot of communications and publication is all digital, right? So all these things are really helpful. We even send interns to the Percy Granger Museum. It's a museum of music, and we have IT students working there as interns. That's how powerful IT is. So think about this. It's good. It's good to think about it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shantan. Thanks, everyone. Fantastic. So there was a lot of information there, and I'll keep going with the theme of information. As I said before, my name's Nathan. I have the pleasure of being a student recruitment officer here at the University of Melbourne. Part of my job is caring for a program that we have here at the university called the Extension Program. So I look after some of Victoria's most high achieving Year 10 to 12 students who are interested in doing extended studies during their VCE aged years at school. So I tend to get invited to a lot of these events to talk about some of the entry requirements that exist in some of our undergraduate degrees. As you can tell, there are a range of courses that we offer here at the university. Shantan was talking a little bit before about the different degrees that you can do that will enable you to do your study. So if we take a quick look back at the Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Design, each of those subjects or each of those degrees there offer majors or things that you can study that may be of interest to you in the area of information technology. So those two main degrees that we were talking about before were our Bachelor of Science and our Bachelor of Design. So if we have a look at our Bachelor of Design, last year the minimum ATAR that was required to get into the course was an 86.25. So what that means is, can I get a show of hands of who here is in Year 10 or is sitting here for a Year 10 student? Cool. Year 11? Year 12? Yeah, there's a few of you. Not many Year 11s, that's okay. So each year this ATAR rank, so for the Year 10s and 11s in the room, this rank changes depending on the type of, the popularity of the course in a given year. So you needed to be within the top 13.75% of the student cohort that year to apply or to be accepted successfully into the Bachelor of Design. Additionally, with the Bachelor of Science, which is one of our largest courses here at the university, we have around about 2,500 places in that particular degree, and you needed an ATAR last year of 85 to be eligible to receive an offer into this course. On the far right-hand side of the screen, we have what are called our subject prerequisites, and these are prerequisites that are set by the university to help you get ready for getting into further study at a university or a tertiary education level. So, for example, if we look at the Bachelor of Design, we asked for you to undertake the likes of English, so that's common for just about every university degree in Australia. And in addition to that, if you were interested in undertaking the systems major as part of your studies, we needed you to have done maths methods as well. Whereas with our Bachelor of Science, we ask that you have undertaken at least one form of science, so one of biology, chemistry, or physics. And in addition to that, one of maths methods or maths specialist. Hands up, people who love maths in here. Anyone love maths? Yeah. IT room, should be heaps of people put their hands up, that's good. So for you guys, if you have undertaken maths specialist and maths methods, that'll have met the science prerequisites as well. So we always encourage you to, or my advice certainly for working with students who are thinking about undertaking their subjects. So for you guys in Year 10 who were talking to me about subject selection a little bit earlier tonight, I always suggest picking some subjects that you're interested in because you're more likely to do well in a subject that you like. I hated maths, so I ended up, I got E pluses until the final exam where I got a B plus, when I got a tutor. So make sure you get a tutor if you're struggling with your maths like I was. But for those of you who are interested in undertaking science, you need an English, a science, or two maths, or at least one of maths methods or specialist maths. We also offer a program here. Sorry, Joseph?
Just with those HRs up there, does that mean, just say for design, if you get an 86.25, does that mean you're definitely in, or is it like you're being considered?
That's a really good question. So we have a range of what we call the minimum required ATARs that we set, which are different from the clearly in rank. It sounds a little bit tricky, but how we set it is, say for example, with the science ATAR, we say if you achieve an ATAR of 85 or above, we will definitely consider your application. Whereas last year, for the Bachelor of Science, for the Bachelor of Design, if you achieved an 86.25, that was just the cut-off of that particular year, where we said that this was the lowest ranked student in terms of their ATAR that we accepted into our course in that given year. So it's not a guaranteed amount, it's just more of an indication for you so that you know that, lots of times, certainly in my experience of working in this sector, that you know that scores don't necessarily go up by plus or minus 3 or 4 points every year unless it's a really new course. Sometimes the course numbers can go up a lot or down. So we always like to give you that number so that you know when you're applying, and you're in Year 12 now, right? Yes, so in December this year, you'll receive your ATAR score on the 14th of December. So you'll know roughly if you're in the sort of ballpark. So if you've achieved, an 86 ATAR, or somewhere, or 84 or 88, you'll know that you're in the ballpark of what the score was from last year. Whereas, say I got a score of 73, that might not necessarily, unless I had, some special consideration of some script, that might not necessarily be the course that I get into the first time of trying with my ATAR score. Does that sort of make sense? Yeah. So it's not so much the guaranteed that we need you to get that, it's just what it was last year, and we want to help you understand what it may be like again for next year. So that's a really good question. So just to push on there, we have a program here at the university that is a great way for students who may have suffered some form of disadvantage during their studies in Year 11 and Year 12. And this particular program is called Access Melbourne. And what we do here at Melbourne is we can guarantee you a place in the majority of our undergraduate degrees and also in some of our postgraduate studies on the basis of some categories that I'll show you in a moment. But more or less, the benefit of applying for a program like this is that you can have a score reduced for you in the course that you may be interested in. And in addition to that, there are a range of scholarships that are associated with this particular type of access program. So perhaps you're thinking about, anyone here come from outside of Melbourne today, like within 40 Ks? Did anyone drive more than 40 Ks to come here today? Yeah, no, everyone's pretty close, that's good. Perhaps you're thinking about relocating and living on campus. You certainly can do that. And what programs like this enable you to do is to receive some scholarships that help you with paying for part of your accommodation, or even just helping to pay for some of the costs associated with, maybe you want to buy a laptop, or maybe you want to put some money towards travel on a Myki card. We can help you with these sorts of things through the different scholarships that we offer. So on the board now, we've got some categories that exist for students that, as part of this Access Melbourne program, we look at these categories and we can attribute you a number based on the type of disadvantage or level of disadvantage that you've suffered during your studies. This slide's particularly focused for the Year 11 and Year 12 students, because Access Melbourne is a Year 11 and Year 12 program, whereas our Graduate Access Melbourne program is for the postgraduate students. So if anyone has any specific questions about postgrad and asking about this program, just come and have a chat with me at the end of the presentation this evening. Certainly for the Year 11 and Year 12 students, we look at all of these categories. So for example, if you are from a disadvantaged financial background, or you're applying and live in a rural or isolated area, we can guarantee you a place in our undergraduate bachelor's degrees here at the university on the basis of that level of disadvantage. So how you particularly apply for this program, I'll go through in a moment, but how you do it is when you're applying through VTAC, so hands up for the Year 12s again. There's a few of you. Yeah, nice. So towards the end of August, your teachers and your careers teachers will sit you down and make sure they have a chat with you about if you're thinking about applying for higher education at the end of your studies in Year 12. They'll sit you down and they'll get you to fill out a form that's called the Special Entry Access Scheme form. And what it is it's a form that you fill out that helps the university to know a little bit more about your application. So some universities use this as a way of giving bonusing points for some things. We don't offer bonus points here at the university. We try to look at, in the first instance, the academic merit of the student that wants to apply for our courses, and if something is difficult is happening to you throughout your studies, that's when we start to apply some of these, I guess, special considerations that happen a little bit behind the scenes, and we let you know before you've even received your university offer if you are eligible for the Access Melbourne program. So I always really guarantee students to apply for this program. Last year I had a student who had, I knew personally through this program I was telling you that I look after, the extension program here, who had a whole raft of bad things that happened to him. He had pneumonia, his dad was unwell, he dislocated his shoulder and broke his wrist before his exams, and he didn't apply for special consideration, and he missed out in the first lot of rounds that the university was making offers for the degrees. He missed out just by a couple of points, and that could have been the difference between him actually receiving an offer to start straight away. He ended up getting in a later round offer, which was fantastic for him, but he could have saved himself a lot of heartache and stress knowing that he had applied for this particular program. And he just told me, Nathan, I didn't want to apply because I wanted to get in on my own merit. But this program's not about helping people who get in without some form of merit. That things go wrong for you during Year 11 and Year 12. There are some difficult circumstances that may have affected you, and we want to help you, and we recognise that. So make sure you do apply for this program, no matter whether you think any of these categories apply for you. Make sure you do apply for it because it's always worthwhile. These are some of the guaranteed scores that we were talking about before, where we can actually reduce the ATAR pretty significantly for these sorts of courses. So for example, the Bachelor of Science goes from an 85 minimum ATAR down to a 78. So if you're accepted into the Access Melbourne program and get a 78 ATAR, and obviously meet the subject prerequisites for the degree you're applying for, we'll guarantee you a place in that course. Whereas if you are interested, and the same with design as well, so that goes from an 86 down to a 78, so a little bit more palatable if you're thinking about, you're feeling like you're a high 70s student. This could be a potentially great way for you to get into a University of Melbourne undergrad degree. Additionally, for our students who are recognised as Indigenous Australians, we also have a range of different subjects there. So for example, our Bachelor of Science Extended, which is a 4-year undergraduate degree, which helps you to get started at the university level. The ATAR that's required for that is a 55 ATAR and a 70 for design. So our new Access Melbourne guarantees for 2018, so for those of you who are in Year 12 now and getting started at university potentially from next year, those scores will be made available in the middle of this month, so we're thinking that'll be on the 15th of June. So given that you've come along to the information evening tonight, we'll actually send you an email to let you know when that information's been made available. So make sure you keep a close eye on that to see what that's like. Now, one of the great things that I really enjoy speaking to students about is the opportunity. Sorry, question?
Just the underrepresented schools.
Yes.
Does that fit into those two categories?
Absolutely. So if we look at category 1, yeah. So
it's the same as the stuff on the left, is it?
Yeah, exactly right. So make sure that you certainly include the name of your school and its postcode, because there's a list of schools that Melbourne recognised as underrepresented schools. So which school are you at? Qantas. Yeah, cool. So from memory, I remember seeing that on a list probably about a year ago. I haven't seen it for this year, but certainly they don't change much. But keep an eye out for that and make sure you do apply for this program, because it's definitely worthwhile to have that on your special consideration form there. Just getting towards the end now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the scholarships that we offer here at the university. Each year the university has, we have in the region of 368 scholarships that we have available for undergraduate and postgraduate students here. And I think that equates to around about $9 million that we give out to students every year, and there's still $5 million that's unclaimed each year. So I always recommend for students, if you're thinking about applying at the University of Melbourne, that you jump on our scholarships website, you share your details with us in terms of, you know, you're an undergraduate student, you're from overseas, where do you live, what sort of courses are you interested in, and we'll be able to, through the website there, work out exactly which scholarships you may be eligible for, and we'll spit those out so that you'll be able to see them for yourself. I guess the great thing about each of those scholarships is that depending on your own personal circumstances, there's always a scholarship that in my experience of working with students, there's always something that students are eligible for. So, for example, perhaps you're interested in undertaking a live-on campus experience as part of one of our 10 residential colleges around College Crescent, which is just on the northernmost part of the university. We can help you with half full scholarships or bursaries and travel bursaries to help you get started here at the university. Or potentially you're interested in overtaking overseas study. I know Shantan and Shane and Lucy were talking a bit before about the different study experiences. I always like asking this question. Hands up if you've ever been overseas before. Leave them up if you would like to go again. Put your hands up if you would like to go and you haven't been. Nice. So that's nearly everyone in the room. Put their hands up there, so that's wonderful. The university really wants to help you get overseas. About 20% of our student cohort each year go overseas. So it's pretty common for students, and it's becoming increasingly more common for students to go. And certainly, as someone who's been overseas as part of their undergraduate degree as well, I would really recommend it because it's a great way. As Shane said, you really grow up quickly, and a lot of the subjects that you've learned at university, you put them really into practice in a real life situation, particularly if you were, say, in my shoes and you go overseas to East Timor and you're working with students who are underprivileged children who are in a worse situation than you, it gives you a great sense of perspective of how lucky we are as Australians. So yeah, so there are a lot of really cool overseas study opportunities and scholarships and bursaries, so funding that we can give you to head overseas. So I can definitely talk to you more specifically about each of the individual partners that we have overseas as well. For those of us who are looking at really focusing in on their Year 12 studies and achieving an ATAR in the region of 99.90 or above, we have it's a scholarship that's a really great reward for students who are really focused in on that particular score, and we will completely wipe your tuition fee from study here at the university from your HECS debt. So you will have just about a completely free education experience here at the university. And we'll also help you with some overseas study scholarships, so helping you to the total of up to $10,000 to go overseas and have an overseas study experience. So that is a really great way to get ahead, certainly. And it looks great on your resume there as someone who has received this, one of Australia's most prestigious scholarships. And we'll also, as Shantan was talking about before, we can also guarantee you a place in a range of our graduate courses. So based on your studies, as I understand it, the Masters of Information Technology, the Masters of Information Systems, both of those courses are included as part of this guarantee. So it's always good. I know I did my master's degree when I was at university as well, and it was a little bit stressful for me, the whole application process of getting in to your master's after having done your undergrad. If you happen to achieve an ATAR that meets the guarantee for that particular course, before you've even started uni, you know you have that weight off of your shoulders that you don't. You just need to go through and focus on your own university studies before we can guarantee you a place in the graduate course. I guess if you don't necessarily achieve this, that's 100% fine. There's quite so many students that I speak to regularly who haven't achieved this ATAR. Only a very small proportion of people in Australia achieve this ATAR, and many come and study with us and do their masters in any case. So I really encourage you to, if you're thinking about studying or really focusing in on that ATAR, that is a really great reward for you if you're able to achieve that. The university also takes very seriously its commitment to working with Indigenous students in Victoria and around Australia, and certainly for students who are interested in learning a little bit more about the engagement activities and the referral services that we have here as part of Murruk Barak, which is our Institute for Indigenous Development here at the university. You're very welcome to come and chat with me at the end of the talk today, and I'd love to talk to you about it some more. Hands up, Year 10s. Again, and Year 11s, there's only one of you, that's cool. So for you guys, if you're thinking about getting into or getting a bit of a taste for what university life is like before you actually go into your first undergraduate degree, I think we've even got an extension program student here with us tonight. Is that right? Yes. And you're doing physics. Yeah, cool. So we've got a number of students who, around 200 students every year, come and study with us and get a taste for university life. The benefit of doing this particular program is that not only can it count as credit towards a University of Melbourne degree in the future, but it will also, if you, depending on the subjects you select, it can also give you an ATAR boost, so help to increase your ATAR score when you're applying. And I guess for you guys who, I guess you're thinking about studying at the University of Melbourne, I'm imagining that many of you are thinking about doing or are in the midst of already completing some Year 12 or Year 11 subjects during your studies there in Year 10 and Year 11. This is a great way for you to help yourself get ahead with your studies and really get a head start on university. So I know for myself, looking after this program, we speak to students who get started at the university, and they say that one of the best things about it is in the first year they only have to do 6 subjects rather than 8, and it really gives them a chance to really succeed in their first year of uni, or maybe they're really focused on picking up some part-time work or having a go at an internship or something of that nature. So it frees up a lot of time during your study. So it's another 4 to 6 hours of study that you don't necessarily need to do on campus because you've already done that during your year 10, 11 or 12 studies. So would you recommend the extension program to students?
Yeah, if you just want to get a taste of uni life, and it's pretty interesting, and yeah, it's the benefit of getting that credit, and it's not that difficult to pass.
Cool. So I promise I didn't plant her in the crowd to say that for us. But yeah, so if you would be interested in undertaking further studies, you'd be very welcome to come and chat with me afterwards. Now, just to wrap up this evening, if you found tonight to be informative and perhaps you like this sort of information series and you're thinking about having a look at biomedicine, or maybe you're thinking about looking at the Bachelor of Design or the Bachelor of Science and seeing how those subjects work as part of their degree, you're most welcome to attend My Melbourne Future series there. I've got some postcards there outside, and I think I gave just about everyone as they walked in that information. So you're very welcome to come along and visit us again. Additionally, for those of you who are thinking about getting a taste of university life just for one day and seeing what it's like to be a University of Melbourne student, I would really encourage you to attend our A Day at Melbourne event. We do cover a little bit of this information in terms of admissions information and scholarships and the Melbourne model and the benefits of it as part of the presentation. But we also really give you an opportunity to go to each of the different study areas like science, IT, engineering, and hear from academics and the tutors who are actually teaching in these particular subjects. And it's always a really fun day to hear from someone who's actually working and studying in that particular area. We also have our open day coming up this year. Hands up if you've been to open day here already. Yeah, cool. There's a few of you. Nice. So this year it'll be held on Sunday, the 19th of August. It is a really good, if you've never been to an open day before, it is a wonderful opportunity to get an understanding of not just the course that you're interested in, but also just the general vibe of the university. What are we here? It's nearly 20 to 9, so the vibe of the university is a bit slower now compared to what it would be like an open day. It's a big university. We have over 40,000 students who study on campus, so there's a lot of students here who'd love to get involved with all of our different clubs and societies. So you're very welcome to come along and visit us there. Now finally, if you'd like any more info that we maybe haven't necessarily got to tonight, again, please come and chat with me at the end of the talk. I'd be very, very pleased and happy to chat with you about some of the questions that you've got. Or you could always, it's nearly bedtime for some of us, so you can give us a call, or alternatively sign up for some updates on our website, or do a call search online.